This book gave me some slight body dysmorphia when I was a kid. Let's get into it. If you grew up in the 90s, chances are you're familiar with the Berenstain Bears series of books. They were all over the place. They had little children's books. They also had cartoons and on VHS tapes, of course. And usually they would try to teach some kind of a lesson. Like there was a book that said it's not good to be greedy. Then there's another book that emphasized telling the truth. But it's this one that is burned into my memory. I might as well have this tattooed on my brain because it really left an impression on me. This is the Berenstain Bears and Too Much Junk Food. So in a nutshell, we'll dive right in. And thankfully for us, this is what I would consider a quick read since it's a children's book after all. So you got these bear cubs that are eating too much junk food. And Mama Bear notices this, but she doesn't really care. She doesn't do anything about it until a few pages in when we get to this page. And this is the page that became such a problem for me, borderline traumatized me when I was a kid. And so what you see here is the cubs are starting to look chubbier from the side. They're starting to look chubbier from the front and from the back. So I took this to mean that it doesn't really matter what you eat or if you eat junk food. It doesn't matter how you feel. After all, I mean, these kids look like they feel pretty good. What matters is how you look. And because of this, I became obsessed with body image. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and when I'd go out to dinner with my family, I would sneak out to run to the parking lot to do jumping jacks. I would just obsessively do jumping jacks because I was trying to burn off the calories that I was eating during the meal. And that was my biggest problem, I think, was exercise. I certainly never did I never induced vomiting or anything, but I always wanted to exercise constantly. It became like a compulsion, especially when my older brother would do some sort of activity. He was always very physically fit, someone I really looked up to. And when he would go outside to ride his bike or play sports with his friends, I had to be doing something active too. Like even if it just meant running in place obsessively. And if I wasn't able to do it, I would actually throw temper tantrums. And my parents probably, I feel kind of bad about it to this day. They were probably like, what is wrong with this kid? Just freaking out. You know, we don't even know why. But it was all because of this body image that I was so obsessed with. And I think it was a whole lot more than just this book, okay? I mean, no one book is going to make you feel that way. I think it also had something to do with the area that I grew up in. So I grew up in Loma Linda, California. And if you're familiar with that area, you know that it's a blue zone. It's a place where people tend to live a long time, very often into their 90s and even hundreds. And part of this is because of the religion that's very dominant there. It's Seventh-day Adventism. This is a type of Christianity that it gets its name because they go to church on Saturday, the seventh day, but they're also very into healthy lifestyle. So for sure, no alcohol, no drugs, no smoking, but vegetarianism is promoted. You go to any cafeteria in Loma Linda, there's no meat. It's all vegetarian. And I think as a side effect of this, a lot of the imagery, the children's books, posters on the wall, paintings at a church, they all really promoted a very statuesque, physically fit people. And, I'm not going to beat around the bush just so you get the image here. For the most part, at least in the 90s, we're talking about Aryans, okay? So blonde hair, blue eyes. The men are over 6 feet tall. Even depictions of Jesus also kind of fit this mold, which is probably not historically accurate. I think the real historical figure of Jesus was probably much smaller, darker skinned man in the Middle East. But yeah, these are the sort of imagery that I was inundated with, and with this constant message of being fit, exercise, eat healthy. This is morally right. And then a little bit of an implication that if you don't do those things, you are in some way morally inferior. One thing that just popped into my mind, I remember I went to this party at a bowling alley. This was a school function. I went to a private school that was also Seventh-day Adventist. And when it came time to order the pizza, I ordered mine with pepperoni. And of course, everyone else just got cheese. And they were just horrified that I had meat, and not only meat, but meat from a pig, an unclean animal. And we're just like, ew, that's disgusting. Like, look at this. How can you eat that stuff? And so I'm telling you all this just to give you an idea of how I grew up in this situation where health was really emphasized, and any sort of deviation from ideals was really not celebrated, to say the least. And I think even more than that, it's also, look at the time period. In the 90s, I think we were also really starting to get very focused on health and body image. I remember seeing shows like Oprah where they're just constantly talking about weight. You got to lose weight, eat healthy, exercise. The biggest one was weight. And so I was constantly surrounded by this imagery and hearing this talk about weight that it just fueled this obsession and this compulsion I had with exercise. And my mom, who is a pediatrician, tried to talk some sense into me. She said, number one, why are you trying to exercise all the time? You're a little kid. You physically don't even have the hormones to get big. You think you're going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something? And so she tried to reason with me, and then and since it was mostly my weight that I was worried about, even though I was pretty much dead center of the bell curve average weight for my age, I didn't feel that way. And I always felt like I was heavier than I should be. And so that persisted for a couple years, probably. Eventually, I grew out of it. I think as I got closer to junior high age, I didn't really bother me. Certainly that compulsion of having to exercise all the time was gone. But yeah, that's something that I dealt with for quite a while. Another vivid memory I have from this time is there were these students in my class. They were twin girls who were sort of like teacher's pet. Like the teacher really liked them. They were great students. It was a day when we were all getting weighed at the school nurse, and one of them was 55 pounds. And then she jumped off the scale, like saying like, "Oh, I'm light as a butterfly," skipping off the scale. And then when it was my turn to get on, of course, I was heavier, and I didn't feel that way. And it was just it felt like another kind of slap in the face with this obsession I had with weight, exercise, and trying to live up to some healthy ideal. And then it continued into my preteen years because of this. I don't know if any of you guys remember this. This is the Physical Fitness Award. And every year we would do these tests: mile run, pull-ups, sit-ups, standing broad jump, shuttle run, 50-yard dash. And if you hit a certain standard of excellence, you got the blue award. This was the top award. If you didn't quite make that ideal, you got this one, the red award. And this is the award that I got every year because I never made the cut. Actually, this blue award isn't even mine. It's my older brother's. So I'll tell you, this was the ultimate status symbol. It was just the who's who of elementary school got the blue award. And then and it felt like your moral value was stratified based on the color of the award that you got every year. Now, thankfully, as I got a little older, once I got to junior high school, I kind of grew out a lot of this stuff. I got really into skateboarding and kind of stopped caring about body image so much. It was no longer how you looked that mattered, but rather what kind of tricks can you do on a skateboard that was important. Arguably, that's not much healthier. But in any event, I got over it. And even though I still vividly remember the feelings that I would get from reading this book, so many years later, it's not something that I'm bothered by to this day. And to be fair, I totally took the message of this book the wrong way. The rest of the book is all about just eating healthy foods that are going to nourish you and sustain you, and not and not eating junk that's just going to ruin your appetite, etc. So I think the overall message is good, but I definitely took it way the wrong way. All right, that's all I got for this video. Thanks for tuning in on this one. It was kind of off the cuff here, but an experience that I think left a big impact on me when I was a kid and something I wanted to share with you guys. And so if you like healthcare or medical related videos like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button there. Check out another video here, and I'll catch you guys later.